did that my first time.
PG.
And welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. We're wrapping September up by taking a look at the last three films for September 25th, 2015. And of course, we're starting off with the biggest new release, the sequel to Hotel Transylvania, Hotel Transylvania 2. The Drac Pack is back for an all-new monster comedy. I'm reading the Sony Pictures written synopsis here, so they gotta talk about the Drac Pack is back for an all-new monster comedy adventure at Sony Pictures Animation's Hotel Transylvania 2. Okay, everything seems to be changing for the better at Hotel Transylvania. Dracula's rigid, monster-only hotel policy is finally relaxed, opening up its doors to human guests, but behind closed coffins, Drac is worried that his adorable half-human, half-vampire grandson, Dennis, isn't showing signs of becoming a vampire. So while Mavis is busy visiting her human in-laws with Johnny and in for a major cultural shock of her own, Vampa Drac enlists his friends Frank, Murray, Wayne, and Griffin to put Dennis through a monster-in-training boot camp. But little do they know that Drac is grumpy and very old school dad Vlad, voiced by Mel Brooks, by the way, is about to pay a family visit to the hotel. And when Vlad finds out that his great-grandson is not a pureblood and humans are not welcome at Hotel Transylvania, things are about to get batty. So that kind of happens with Vlad, but we'll talk about it. Not really happening, but it kind of, but again, we'll touch on that in just a second. But, yeah, like I said, the first Hotel Transylvania was one of the big surprises of a couple years prior. I mean, it was one of my favorite movies of 2012. It was Adam Sandler's best movie in decades, and it was a fun, well-animated movie that gave Jendy Tartakovsky a much extra needed boost in popularity because, you know, everyone knew who he was then, but that movie kind of elevated him to kind of another level. So there was a lot riding on the second film, and it's not as good as the first movie, but at the same time, it's still a really good movie. I mean, I will gladly take these movies that have to watch Adam Sandler in another shitty movie like Pixels or Jack and Jill any day of the week. Easily. And I think one of the biggest problems that this movie has right away is the fact that there is kind of a lack of heart and emotion in this one, which was what was great about the first movie. They did manage to find the balance between the zany Looney Tunes-esque style animation while also bridging the gap for more emotional and deep moments that actually do work to the film's advantages. Here, you still get a little bit of the heart here and there, but there is more of a sense of the zany animation and humor, which is fine because I think it looks pretty cool, and I think it is perfect for the style of what kind of a movie series this is. I will say that the third act does seem like it was kind of unfinished. I mean, the first two acts did feel like there was a purpose. Those were already set. But then when you get to the third act, it's just like, oh, shit, we forgot to talk about these new characters here. Because, yeah, Mel Brooks shows up in this movie as Vlad, but he doesn't show up until the very end of the movie, like towards the end of the film. And it's not only that, but it just seemed like they were scrambling to find ways to give this a proper ending, and it just feels rushed. There's a rushed villain played by Rob Riggle. There's like an Avengers-style climax where, you know, everybody teams up to take down the bad guy in this, which, I mean, what I liked about the first movie is that there wasn't really a bad guy. It was just a sense of a guy in Dracula who realizes that while the times have changed, people's mindsets can change as well. People don't see these monsters as threats anymore. They see them as kind of like figures that they want to get behind. You saw how that worked in the first film, but in this movie, it didn't feel like there was really a sense of there really wasn't a sense of how to finish this up in general. The first movie did a good job of building up the third act, giving you that record scratch moment where the monsters go into town. You think everybody's going to be scared of them, but they are scared, but they fully are all in on them. They really do believe in all of them. Like, they're not trying to kill them. They're cool with it. And I like in this movie that the world has basically just become accustomed to these monsters there. I think that's pretty cool. But here, it really did feel like they were rushing for the climax in this. And speaking of the villain, that's my biggest problem with this movie. It's a lazy villain that they throw in there, because you don't see him in any of the previews. He's not even built up in the movie. I mean, once again, going back to the first movie, no villain. They didn't need to throw a villain because the story itself was investing enough. But here, it's a lazy attempt to throw in a villain I have ever seen in the movie. And he's so unnecessary. And just take a guess on who played... Why am I even asking that question? I just told you who it was, Rob Riggle. I'm reading my old review, and I'm writing it like I'm telling you this for the first time. So it's like, who's this villain's voice is that? Even though I already said his name beforehand. But, like, I mean, Rob Riggle, man, I don't understand. This guy is great. He's very funny, and he can be a good actor, but in movies like this and The Lorax, he shows up and just pretends to be like he's the most important person in this movie, and I don't know if it's just because the movie is forcing him in there or not, because he was also in Dumb and Dumber 2, and he kind of feels forced in. It's just kind of like, I like him, I think he's funny, but they just throw him in there for no reason except to be a lame bad guy. I mean, he's kind of a lazy guy. Like, he doesn't really have a motivation up until we meet Vlad and him, because they're both a company, his friends when we meet them the first time around. And then by the end, Mel Brooks is just like, don't ever come near me and my family again. It's just kind of like, well, you're pointless. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, use the guy for his true comedic talents, but just don't make him a pointless villain. Come on, man. But, like I said, there are a lot of things I do really like about the movie. The animation, top-notch. This is Genndy Tartakovsky working his animation magic once again. And I like that while the animation can be more bubbly and more vibrant compared to the first movie, it's what you expect from this director overall. It's a good usage of his talents. The voice cast overall is great. Adam Sandler, once again, is great as Dracula. Selena Gomez, Andy Samberg, Kevin James, David Spade, Steve Buscemi, Nick Offerman, Megan Mullally, Mel Brooks. They all work very well. They got a couple of good one-liners from Dana Carvey and John Lovitz. Keegan-Michael Key does a very good job of replacing CeeLo Green as the Mummy from the first movie. The story is a good story, and it does work to the film's advantage, and it does work to the comedy that they're working with. So, I guess in a way, I'd probably put this in the same vein as something like A Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2, where it's hard to top a really good first movie. And Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs had a great first movie and a less than spectacular sequel, but it wasn't a bad sequel by any means necessary. There is still a lot to admire about this movie. The animation is still great, the voice acting is still great, the story does work for the most part, the comedy does too. I think the movie needed a lot more of the heart and the deeper moments from the first film and a much better third act and the lack of an unnecessary villain to make it good or even better than the first film. At least with Hotel Transylvania 3, the next one, there was a fun villain they threw in there. And they didn't just make him a straight-up villain. They did have him a character that was kind of misunderstood, kind of, it was when you got to that point. But we'll get to that when we get to Hotel Transylvania 3. But I still really enjoyed Hotel Transylvania 2. I still enjoy the series in general. There's not a bad film in the series. Even the worst one, Transformania, which was the one without Adam Sandler, wasn't a bad movie. It was just kind of a less than necessary sequel to a pretty strong series of films overall. This one, I like it. Not bad, not great, but good. A good sequel overall, so take that for what you will. So let's go ahead and move on to the latest film from Nancy Meyers, Robert De Niro, and Anne Hathaway starring in The Intern.
Remember who did that? The Intern.
I'm Fiona, the house masseuse. How's that, Ben?
Oh boy. Here you go. Rated PG-13. Starts September 25th.
And then Robert De Niro turns into Dirty Grandpa, and we all lose on that front. But that was one of his next movies after this. But hey, this is a good movie. This is a movie that was very much under the radar when it came out, and kind of got lost in the shuffle since then, but I really enjoy this movie. If Robert De Niro plays a 70-year-old widower who becomes a senior intern in the fashion website run by Anne Hathaway, where he forms an unlikely friendship with the company's workaholic CEO. So you can also kind of see this as kind of the sequel to The Devil Wears Prada, where Anne Hathaway basically took what she learned from Meryl Streep and made her own company out of it, and thus, lo and behold, here she is in this. I mean, it literally feels like it could be a sequel to that movie, and yeah, it's a movie where I think there is a good idea to it. I think it is a film where it is an intriguing idea, having Robert De Niro as this intern for this younger person in general, and there's no kind of, it's a movie where it's just the two of them trying to get by through life. De Niro's going to give her some advice, and Anne Hathaway can do the same thing with her, and maybe get her some with Renee Russo, who's in this movie, which I'm always glad to see her back in anything. You also have Anders Holm from Workaholics, as well as Adam Devine, Andrew Reynolds, Linda Lavin. So there is a good cast involved in this movie. This is written and directed by Nancy Meyers, who very rarely makes a bad movie. I mean, she's made a lot of good films. The Parent Trap, What Women Want, Something's Gotta Give, The Holiday, It's Complicated. This may be the lesser of her movies, but nevertheless, it is still an enjoyable movie. And it's a movie where it's not going in there trying to be like something very important, like it's supposed to be like this pivotal, you need to learn about this stuff here because this is the most important thing in the world. No, it's not that whatsoever. It's a simple movie where you have a guy who doesn't have much to do and decides, I'm going to come out of retirement and take this position here at a job here. This is what The Internship should have done. The Internship, what that movie failed to do was basically write older people off as just people who have no idea how to advance with the world. Like, Vince, the person who wrote that movie clearly has a vendetta against old people learning how to use the internet. It's just kind of like, I mean, that movie is just so bad. This is the type of movie that I wanted The Internship to be, because they don't treat Robert De Niro like he's stupid. They don't treat him like he's an idiot. They treat him like a normal person, and that's great. Like, I like to see a movie like that where you don't have these really big, really obnoxious douchebags trying to destroy this guy for the fact that he's just an old guy in general, and I like that. I like the fact that they went down that route with this, and I like the chemistry between him and Anne Hathaway. I like the chemistry between him and Rene Russo. I think there is a lot there to like about the movie. Is it one of Nancy Meyers' best movies? No. It's definitely a film where it is just kind of a generic run-of-the-mill movie, but there's nothing wrong with that as long as you're getting entertainment value out of it, and I do get a lot of entertainment value out of this. I like seeing these two actors working off each other. They're great actors. They have Oscars for reasons. They're great people that you want to see starring in roles like this. And it's nice to have just a simple, straightforward comedy where it's not asking you to think deeply about it. It's just, here's a story about two people from different generations working together, and here's how they'll handle that. And yeah, it's a movie that doesn't overstay its welcome either. Even though it's just a little over 2 hours long, it never feels like you're sitting there for a long time just waiting for the thing to go like, okay, wrap it up already. Like, it's a simple, quiet, comfort food movie. It's the type of film where you sit down, you've had a long day at work, you've probably had a bad day, you want to watch something to take your mind off of something. This is one of those movies I would definitely say is one worth checking out. I didn't get to see it when it first came out. I had some kind of interest in it early on, but never really any reason for me to go watch it until very late on down the road, but I'm glad I did. It's actually a very nice film. A good film overall. Not one of their better movies, but hey, it's a good comfort food movie, so take that for what you will. So that's The Intern. So let's go ahead and move on to our last movie that we have here, and hopefully if you've had a really bad day or a long day at work, it's probably your first go-to movie you don't want to go to is our last film, which is Eli Roth's The Green Inferno.
Starts September 25th.
But then again, there are people that after they've had a bad day, they decide, I'm going to go ahead and watch a nice movie called Falling Down with Michael Douglas in it, which, that's a great movie and all, but probably not the right movie you want to watch after a bad day. That might make you want to do stuff that you probably shouldn't be doing. But The Green Inferno, believe it or not, this was actually Eli Roth's first movie as a director since Hostel Part 2 8 years ago. I didn't know that. I thought he had directed a couple movies between that, but no. He hadn't directed anything between this and that movie in 2007. Even though this was made in 2013, it didn't get a theatrical release until Blumhouse picked it up in 2015. But this is a movie that is inspired by and serves as an homage to Italian cannibal films of the late 1970s and early 80s, like Cannibal Holocaust, and which that film in particular features a film within a film called The Green Inferno. In this movie, you follow a young woman who joins an activist group that goes on an overseas trip when they eventually run into a cannibalistic tribe. And I will say this, the beginning of the movie kind of starts off slow, but then they have this really impressive, grotesque plane crash that happens, which, yeah, the plane crash in this is probably one of the best plane crashes I've seen in recent films. I mean, this is right up there with Knowing, and, you know, it's a scene where it's just like, yeah, it's well done, it's violent, it's intense, and yeah, you get invested in it, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, once this happens, we're going to get going right here. And then it just kind of goes back to just being a bland, forgettable movie. Like, here's the problem with making a movie like this in modern day. Back in the 1970s and 80s, when they made these films like this, it was no stops ahead. I mean, they could pretty much do whatever they want and get away with it. And as long as you put the money to it and they put it out there, it's going to get released. So, I mean, yeah, back then there were no rules on how to do this type of stuff. But trying to do this now in a time when a lot of people are more politically correct nowadays and more sensitive to stuff like this, a film like this doesn't really fly that well. Especially with a movie where you're trying to do something that is similar to the 70s and 80s, and it just doesn't work in the end, and that's really the biggest problem with the film in general. Trying to do a film like this for a generation in the 2010s is extremely hard to do, and even somebody like Eli Roth, I don't think pulled it off very well with this movie here. I mean, once the plane crash happens, you think the film's finally going to get back on track and actually get to an intense enjoyment factor to it, but it never really gets to it. It just feels really boring when it's all said and done. It's just kind of like, I mean, nothing really is that scary in this movie here, watching these people, eating these people alive here. You think that would be kind of awesome and lead to the reason why you see the film, but when it happens, it's kind of like, I felt nothing watching this. I mean, I felt nothing watching these people, like, getting eaten and all that type of stuff and getting killed and all that. Like you could still watch, like a George Romero zombie movie and still get a lot of it. And those have been around for, like, 40, 50, 60 years. But a film like this just really feels like, I'll give it this. I'll give him credit for trying to do something, that hadn't been done in a long time. Like, I do like the idea of these people, they go to the rainforest thinking that they're just going to go there to be environmentalists, but all they care about is, how many clicks and likes we got on our social media, because this is one of those films where, this is before the days of TikTok, but, Instagram, Facebook, Vine, all that type of stuff. Like, I mean, that stuff there could lead to something very good, very interesting here, but other than that, though, when they get to the actual killings and all that, you really don't feel anything for these people whatsoever, because it's just like, yeah, you want to see them get killed, but other than that, though, it's just kind of like, I mean, what's the point? Like, why am I even here and all that? And, I mean, it's just, I don't know. To me, it didn't work, and I think a lot of people didn't like it as much either. It really just kind of came and went. It wasn't a big critical hit, not surprisingly, and most of the people who saw the film, I mean, you'd have to probably be a very specific audience to really give this movie the chance that you think it needs to, but I don't know, man. It just didn't do it for me. It's just a film where it's just kind of like, I get what Eli Roth was trying to do, but it just didn't really quite fit well with me. Like, it just didn't really work in general. Like, I mean, I get what he's trying to do, but I never really felt like he got the true point of what he was trying to get across with this, so. I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, hey, Eli Roth can say that he doesn't care about what I have to say about it, which he probably can. I mean, I'm literally reading a Rolling Stone news article titled that says, Eli Roth doesn't care if you hate his gory cannibal movie. Okay, I don't like your gory cannibal movie. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you. But to his credit, though, he will have a better movie coming up in a couple of weeks that we'll get to with Keanu Reeves called Knock Knock. But as far as this one goes, yeah, I say skip it, but hey, what am I going to tell you? That's Screen Inferno. And so on that note, we leave you with an episode of Time About the Movies in the Books. I have no idea what that ending was about, but that's going to wrap this episode up. I'm sorry about that. But I'm not sorry for our next episode, because we talked about Everest last week, and remember the two movies I mentioned, The Martian and The Walk, about these epic cinematic experiences that you'll never forget that were in theaters around this time? Those are the two movies we're going to take a look at. We're going to take a look at Ridley Scott's adaptation of Andy Weir's The Martian. Of course, Andy Weir right now in the news again with Project Hail Mary, which is another fantastic film. But this was one of his the first movies brought from one of his books, with Matt Damon involved in it, along with an ensemble cast. We'll talk about that one. And we'll also talk about The Walk from director Robert Zemeckis, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt, based off the documentary Man on Wire, which in and of itself is based on a true story. And again, a great movie that sadly did not get the recognition I thought it deserved, because it is a great, great movie. And I'm very excited to talk about both of these films tomorrow on the channel, so stay tuned for that. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the previous episode we did. So with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.